SMU travels to Penn State for the first round of the college football playoff this Saturday, December the 21st, 12 o'clock on TNT. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the game and give you a prediction. But first, I'm Brian. Welcome to my channel. I'm glad you're here. If you enjoy talking college football, I know I have all my Clemson stuff up around me, but I talk about other teams, well, kind of like today. If you like supporting an independent with no strings attached, I hope you'll subscribe. It is free. I appreciate it. I know SMU well. How do I know SMU well? Well, they just joined the ACC, but they played my Clemson Tigers in the ACC championship. Clemson was up by 17 points, and I was like, all right, we've won another one. And then we wasted a 17-point lead. It took Clemson trotting out a true freshman kicker to hit a 56-yard field goal to beat SMU. Rhett Lashley and the boys can play football. And I'm going to dive into their team in just a moment, but Rhett Lashley can coach. He's one of the best offensive coordinators, schemers in the game, and we found that out firsthand. I'm glad we got out of that game with a W. Let's go over to the other side. Penn State will be sitting in Happy Valley. There's going to be 100 and something thousand people screaming their heads off. And their team, led by James Franklin, a guy who did unbelievable things at Vanderbilt, and then many years ago came over, he's coached some incredible teams. He's had some incredible talent. The Achilles heel there, and I know Nittany Lions, you're tired of hearing about it, is James has a difficult time in the big game. Let's talk about Penn State's schedule this year. They beat West Virginia, Bowling Green, Kent State, a much-improved Illinois team, UCLA. They went into overtime with Southern Cal, but they beat them. They beat Wisconsin, and then it set up the November 2nd matchup with Ohio State. It was in Happy Valley, and it's like, finally, we're going to get over this. You were up 10-0. Ohio State beat you. Unfortunately, I called that Ohio State would beat you. Why I mean by, unfortunately for you, I mean, it was just, I didn't buy in. But you went on to beat Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland. You went to the conference championship game and you only lost by 8 points to the number one team in the country, Oregon. And now you're here. First round of the college football playoff, and you're here. Of all the teams in the Big Ten that could be in this, you're in it. Obviously, I know Ohio State and Oregon's in it, but I'm just saying you're here. So many teams would die to be in this place. I know that's dramatic, but you know what I mean. But everybody is scratching their head going, Can Franklin beat this SMU team? I know. They're from the lowly ACC. And who has SMU played? Penn State? You're probably looking at me going, hey, buddy, I appreciate you conveniently leaving out who they haven't played. Let's be fair. SMU beat Nevada, barely beat them, on August the 24th, 29-24. And I was like, oh, here we go. They beat Houston Christian, lost to BYU by 3 points. They hammered TCU. They beat Florida State, which everybody beat Florida State. They beat Louisville. Clemson couldn't beat Louisville. They beat Stanford. Duke took them to overtime. And probably their most impressive win of the season is when they hammered Pittsburgh. I say that, but actually, that Louisville game, that was the most impressive win. They beat Boston College, Virginia, California. And then my Clemson team had to have Miami lose their 21-point lead against Syracuse so we could play them, and Clemson beats them. So you could step back and say to me, well, SMU played a pitiful schedule. And they had some pushback. And my friends, I think that sets up this game quite well. Now, Penn State's an 8.5-point favorite in this game. I don't know if it's going to be snowing, and the boys from Dallas are going to have to deal with that, but it's going to be cold either way. Start with SMU. Kevin Jennings. This guy has had an incredible season. He passed for over 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Rashard Smith, 217 carries for 1,270 yards, 14 touchdowns. And they have some really good receivers across the board. I mean, they're spreading the football around. Oh, and by the way, I don't want to leave out, Kevin Jennings is quite mobile. So he's their second leading rusher with 379 yards, 5 touchdowns. And they're passing around the football to several people. Roderick Daniels, Keyshawn Smith, Jordan Hudson, Moochie Dixon. I mean, they're getting the football around to a lot of people. If you go over to the defensive side of the football, this team is one of the top teams in the country, leading in team sacks. Their leading tackler is Kobe Wilson, 110 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions. This guy's everywhere. They have Isaiah Smith with 6.5 sacks, Elijah Roberts with 5.5 sacks. You have Jafari Harvey, 7 sacks, a couple other guys with 2.5 sacks. As far as their secondary goes, they have 2 guys with 3 interceptions, or 3 guys with 3 interceptions, 1 guy with 2 interceptions, multiple guys with 1 interception. Their defense is not bad at all. And they started to have some pushback against Clemson. They really did. Clemson could have adjusted a little better, and that will be a key for y'all, whether you can adjust a little better. Let's go over to the Penn State side. Everybody knows about Drew Aller. The guy can play. 2,894 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Nick Singleton can play. 131 carries, 838, 7 touchdowns. Leading wide receiver is not a wide receiver. It's your tight end, Tyler Warren, with 1,062 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, if you go down and you look at Penn State's running attack, they have Katron Allen, 822 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. Drew Aller is the third leading rusher with 279 and 6 touchdowns on the ground. They pass the ball around to other guys like Harrison Wallace III, Amari Evans. Nick Singleton comes out of the backfield, catches the football, swing over to the defensive side of the football. They have Abdul Carter, 10 sacks on the season. The guy's just a wrecking ball. Coming off the end there. Kobe King, second leading tackler on the team with 72 tackles, 3 sacks. Jalen Reed is the leading tackler on the team with 79 tackles. Total, 1.5 sacks and 3 interceptions. And this team just has a bunch of athletes on it overall. I mean, they really, really do. As I said, Kobe King with 3 sacks, Zane Durant with 3 sacks. You have, let me see. You have Tony Rojas, I believe I'm saying that correctly, with 2 interceptions, multiple guys with 1 interception. This team is not just going to come in and let you do whatever you want to. So what does this really, really come down to? To me, the moment. Now, each game has its own storyline. I created a video based on Indiana and Notre Dame. I mean, 2 schools that are within 3.5 hours of one another who hasn't played since 1991. It has its own story. Tennessee at Ohio State, it has its own story. It's on field. But what's the story in this one? It's about going into a hostile environment of a team that is historically good, but they've struggled to win the big game. They've struggled to win the big game. Yes, that's you, Penn State. But SMU, on the other hand, they really wasn't tested this year. But when they did face some tougher teams, with the exception of Louisville, which Louisville only lost by 7 points. SMU lost. Again, Mustangs, I'm not taking away from you. You're extremely talented. And if SMU wins this ball game, a lot of people will see it as some upset. Yeah, it would kind of be an upset, but it wouldn't be massive. Even Vegas, at the time of this video, Vegas only has Penn State at home as an 8.5-point favorite. So if SMU wins, it's not some massive upset. I see Penn State getting past this first round game to move forward to the second round. I just see them with the atmosphere and the athletes and the playability overall just overwhelming SMU and sending them home in the first round. Either way for both teams, especially SMU, it's been an incredible season because this was their first year in the ACC. They made it to the conference championship game. So it's a big deal. Penn State, they want that win, but they want to get past just that one win. They want more. So I'm seeing the Nittany Lions winning this game. Hey, tell me who you see winning this game. If you don't mind sharing why, it's always good to hear from you. I want to remind you, I am an independent. If you like supporting independents, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel and drop me a note in here and say hello. Y'all take care of yourself. And as I always end all of my videos, go Tigers.